The anticipation.
Anticipation.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, I can see you.
All right, and we're live. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another live broadcast. I haven't done too many of these. I'm Eileen Winokur, and I'm so excited tonight. Well, it's tonight in Kuwait, but it's this afternoon Eastern time to have on the broadcast the author and illustrator of a very new children's book that's just been out for a couple of weeks called Strum and the Wild Turkeys. So Noa Daniel, author, and Alana McCarthy, illustrator, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us together on the first shared stage.
Yeah. So I'm not used to the view with three people, so I'm gonna just move things around a little bit. Yes, that's much better.
Yeah, that's great.
So I didn't really say very much about you, and there's so much that each one of you is doing. So Noa, why don't you kick it off and tell our viewers what's happening with you and what you're doing and what you have been doing?
Sure, happily. I am a classroom teacher part-time in the York Region District School Board, and I also have a consulting practice called Building Outside the Blocks, and I do a lot of different projects, a lot of different speaking. I'm the executive director of the Mentory. I'm the author of Strum and the Wild Turkeys. I'm a podcaster on Voice Ed Radio, and I'm just a generally enthusiastic educator that's excited to share space with all of you. So I think that sums me up pretty well.
Yeah. And Alana?
Hi, Eileen. I'm Alana McCarthy. I'm an illustrator in downtown Toronto. And I do a lot of book covers, things for advertising. I've worked for Disney, Pixar, Nickelodeon, Taco Bell, Scholastic. I've got tons of projects on the go all the time. And yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell.
Sounds good. I want to show everybody the book. This is the cover, and you can see the amazing illustrations, and the story is just awesome. So I wanted to get into the story right away. So Noa, kind of take us through a little bit. What is the basis for the story? What is the backstory? How did it get started? And and then tell us a little bit about the background to how you started the story.
Sure. So I have known Avi and Barry Glenna their whole lives. They're like family to me. And a happening occurred on their ranch in the Kawarthas. And it was such a good story that they called me and basically sent me these images and said, can you write this story? And what happened was they had a peacock in an enclosure that escaped. And it was like this mystery. Where is this peacock? And after a year of wonderings, it appeared on a trail cam looking as if it was leading a pack of wild turkeys. And they sent me the footage and they're like, okay, write a story. And I was working on a project, but the story was so compelling. What an interesting cast of characters already. So I started to do some research, and the common thread that I found, and you guys both know this about me, was music. And I happened to be working on a project that was very musically focused. So I kind of believed that helped to facilitate this experience. When I was doing research on peacocks, I discovered they didn't just make vocalizations, they actually also made sounds and music with their tail feathers and with their plume, because their tail feathers is actually, and I'll explain Alana's style in a second, something that holds their plume up. But turkeys also make sounds, and cut, gobble, kiki, and yelp are the names of the sounds they make. And as soon as I learned that, I said, they're a band, and was so excited to start to imagine the story. But then I had to come up with the problem and thought about what it must be like if, how you're known is for this beautiful plume, and it didn't work so well. And what would a peacock experience? And so the alienation he experiences and that negative sense of self evolves through the story, and we see how he finds his voice and he finds his band, literally and figuratively. And that's essentially how the story came to be. And then when we got to the stage of choosing an illustrator, the whole team was like, oh my gosh, Alana's vibrant style really drew us to her. And we started to have conversations. And I'm so excited to hear Alana's side of how this all went down, because I've never heard it before.
Oh, really? That's so amazing. Yeah. So Alana, yeah, please tell us when you were contacted. I don't know, did Noah contact you or did someone else contact you?
Yeah,
and what happened next?
Sure. Actually, it's funny. I was, this is pre-COVID times. I was working in a cafe, my favorite little cafe to work at on College Street, beautiful big bright windows. And yeah, I just got a random call. It was actually from Stacy. And she contacted me and she said, oh, we have this children's book in the works. So we're really interested in you doing some stuff for us. And she said, we'd like you to do a little sample. Now, I usually say no to samples, or I ask for a small fee because my time is worth money, right? So, yeah, but I just took a chance on it. I was like, okay, fine. This sounds like a cool project. So I did a little peacock sample, and yeah, they got back to me and they really loved it. And we just negotiated from there. And luckily everything worked out. And we have this beautiful children's book to show for it.
Yeah. So how were the conversations between the two of you in terms of what Noah was thinking? And because we hear about, I know that I've listened to authors of children's books on Voice Ed Radio, you know, when Stephen has interviewed them. And sometimes it's the first time that they've actually been in the same space with each other. And so the process is really interesting in terms of how the author communicates what they want, but then of course the illustrator has a viewpoint. So how did that work?
It's funny because I actually spoke to Alana, and then I'm going to let you kind of tell the rest of the story. But I said for my first two books, I had no say at all in the illustrations. I got to weigh in a little bit, and that was when I was, you know, Noah Schwartz. And when we did this, not only did Alana kind of invite me, but she asked me questions and engaged me. And now I'm going to turn it over to you. And how did you see that process?
Yeah, it was a really great process. Yeah, like Noah said, if you're with a publisher, usually they'll just team you up with an illustrator and you have no say in the matter. But since they were independently publishing, Noah and I actually had the chance to work together. So it was such a great process because, I mean, when I go into the book, I read the script. I have my own thoughts on what the story is, but I know that Noah was living with these characters for so long. She had little bios about everybody. She had fleshed them out. And I wanted to learn what she saw from the characters too. So there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of sketching. And then we weren't really, I found the one that was the trickiest was Strum, because of course, being the main character. And I just said to her, I'm like, can you send me some kind of sample? Yeah, there's Strum. Can you send me some kind of example just to give me, just to solidify your idea of this? And I was expecting her to send other illustrators or other illustrations. And what she did was she made a PowerPoint of all these celebrities, like Finn Wolfhard and Dave Grohl and stuff. And she's like, these are the people I want embodied in the character. And you know what? It worked so well. It pinpointed exactly what she wanted to see in that peacock's look. And it's funny because you wouldn't think that a person translates into an animal, but it worked so well.
I wanted to show you, like, if you know Finn Wolfhard's characters or Timothy Chalamet, who are the two people that were Strum, you can kind of see it in the expression. But one of the things that you don't think about when you're imagining in your mind are the logistics. So when Alana figured out that the darker colored, like orangey gold tail feathers were going to be what was strumming his plume that he wears over his shoulder like a guitar, that was like magic. Because, you know, in my mind, I knew his issues and I knew that I wanted him to be able to show his emotions really bodily. But I didn't expect this. And so as she evolved the character, and she made a really beautiful video of the evolution of Strum, because she would send me something. And, you know, I didn't know, like, I have a lot to say about a lot of things. So I was trying to figure out just how much I was allowed to do. But she kept saying to me, and that was cool too. Like, we hadn't yet signed with Edumatch, so we were still kind of on our own renegating this experience. And I would be like, tell me if it's too much, but not this and not this, but this. And she was like, well, how about this? And then she was being playful with me. And that's why being creative collaborators together made this, I think, really magical. And I even heard, many people don't get to meet the illustrator, but not only did I get to meet her, she came up to the ranch and we went around on ATVs and imagined space and imagined maps and talked through things in just such a fun way. And yeah, it was a really cool process at every single stage to be able to send her. She asked me for Pinterest, and that's not my thing. So I actually did it in Google Slides. And so for the drummers, I threw Dave Grohl in there, and Keith Moon, and I threw in Neil Peart, and just some people that I love, whose energy is what I was hoping she would channel. But with Gobble in particular, Evan Barry's grandfather, who they share with my first cousins, was a really important patriarch in the family. He was a Holocaust survivor. And every function that we had, he would pull out his mandolin. And so that had to be in there. So we made it an electric mandolin because it had to be there. But then Zadie Mendel's hat, the safari hat that he wore in Florida, is in there too. And so anybody in the family that would see him would get that feeling that even though he's a much larger, Gobble's a large character and Zadie Mendel was short, you get the personality kind of through Gobble. And Gobble's the one that my youngest daughter, Julia, wants to have a stuffed animal of so badly. Guys, I'm not sure. I keep hearing typing, and I'm not sure why I'm hearing typing. So,
yeah. I have no idea. I thought maybe one of you was typing. I have no idea where that's coming from. Oh. I don't know. But it's really weird. Yeah, because nothing's happening here either. But so Alana, if you could sort of take it from there, Noah's has a lot of knowledge about music, musicians, performers, and so forth. So you said initially that helped with Strum. Was that something that Noa was sort of feeding you or giving you an idea about the whole time?
Yeah. For each character, she kind of made a little PowerPoint board in slides and had a bunch of different characters, like especially for Yelp. She had just kind of stock images of like serene people playing like violins, and it helped to embody the personality of the character.
Yeah. Noa, your love of music goes really deep. Can you talk a little bit about that and exactly what, sort of started that and where that has led you to create these characters, this band of characters in Strum and the Wild Turkeys?
I guess like some people are musicians and some people are audiophiles and some people just understand the power of music. And I'm kind of really in a weird, odd, wonderful place of being in the music. And I grew up, my dad had record stores. So I grew up, those were my first jobs when I was little. I got paid in 45s and I got to use the heat sealer of the albums. And then I got to, practice my math skills by working at the cash. And I worked really hard. I wasn't allowed to be the boss's daughter. I was really very responsible, but I had to be able to help people find music. So they would come in and they would be like, I'm getting a present for somebody this age. And I would have to know enough to be able to find the genre and find the band and know that like Alice Cooper was a guy and to know that Pink Floyd wasn't by F but by P or like whatever it was. It was a really great way to grow up. And I had posters covering every wall of my basement and flags of different bands. But I can't play music and I'm not like that person. I maybe a few bars in of some great rock music I can do, but I don't have like vast knowledge of all genres. I'm a generalist, but it's really helped me when it comes to teaching because music is a great leveler and it's a wonderful way to connect to people. And as I say in my TED Talk, it's a wonderful way in and out of people. And so when you have this character who's playing music and he can use it as a conduit for him to express himself and to share his voice. And even, you know, when his siblings are being contrary with him, you see his first moment of sense of self and not falling prey to other people's perception of himself, but he kind of digs his heels in and he's like, well, this is my music. And after you see him evolving, people are gravitating to him because he's being true to himself. And then the rest of the story unfolds that I'll let y'all read the book to figure out.
Yeah, that was one of the pages that I had sort of signaled. I'm not going to give it all away, but this one is really meaningful in terms of Strum being himself. He said, you know, I sort of have my own music in my head, and that's okay. What I really love is the expressions on all of the animals' faces the whole time, and the fact that you can just look at their body language, their eyes, and so forth, and you can see right away exactly what they're thinking and how they're feeling, which is really, really amazing. How are you able to do that through your illustrations, Alana?
Well, I found when I was sketching out the linears, I would send them off to Noah, and then Noah would be like, well, here I see Strum feeling really rejected. I just don't think you're getting that in his expression. And then I would tweak it and keep sending it to her. And then when I got it, she's like, run with that. So it really helped to have her feedback because she really felt the emotion of the characters.
Yeah.
I need to throw it back to Alana. Like, you have to understand how truly gifted and talented this person is to be able to translate all of my crazy into art. And so many people have not read the book yet and just look at the cover and it says everything about the story once you read it and you look back. But what else is really interesting about Alana as an artist is really the spectrum of possibility when you work with somebody like her. Because even when we got to the lettering, and I was like, no, little rock and roll, little like 80s throwback. He came out with this, and she's wearing the Wild Turkey shirt, which I'm not wearing. But like, there's a feeling of being part of a time where music was everything. And it was interesting. A friend of mine just did a podcast on the beauty of vinyl. And what he was talking about is that nobody remembers the story of their first download of music. But most people can tell you the money that they saved and which record store they were in when they bought their first album or an album that really affected them. And I know that Sean Gaylord's about to come out with like a new podcast about the album that changed your life. And those narratives is part of what makes music so powerful. Is the memories that they conjure and the nostalgic element that they bring up. Like, I remember the smell, the album cover sounds, like every aspect of what that can do. So even the lettering conjures an emotion and a piece of nostalgia, but also like edge, just a little bit of edge to make this so different and interesting. So that's all styles.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, I've been reading about book covers and how important they are. And, you know, if you see a book cover and you're attracted to the book cover, you're more likely to purchase the book. And so the fact that, you know, the illustrations and the way the lettering is and all of that has put together the, you know, what the story is saying, it's not easy to have all of that in one package. And there's just, I mean, there's so much color. Also, it could get distracting, but it's not. You know exactly what you're getting when you see it, just like Noah was saying. No, I'm. Go ahead, Alana.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, actually, I have a background. Well, I've been pretty much a visual communicator for 20 years come next year, professionally. And I worked for a while as a senior graphic designer for an animation company. So So a lot of that comes into my work as well. So I have a lot of design skills, typographic skills, layout skills. And recently, since I quit that job and I came back to freelancing, I have been studying hand lettering. So that's where this Wild Turkeys logo comes from. And I've fallen in love with that part of it. And I think it complements my illustrations so well because now I can draw the pictures and I can letter as well.
Yeah. And that's so meaningful.
Sorry.
No, go ahead,
If you don't have the book yet, you can go on to strumandthewildturkeys.com, and for educators or parents or caregivers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, you can go into the grown-up section and you can see some pieces of Alana's illustrations really come alive by delineating the different subject areas. But also, what's so interesting about her style is when students read this, they say, is this going to be a TV show? And I was just reading the book with a group of grade 1 to grade 4 yesterday, and hearing them think that because of the vibrance of the characters, the expressions, the dimensions, I think that that's also a real celebration of Alana's style.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, and they jump off the page. So it's no wonder that children will say, this could be a cartoon show, and on the website also, if you want one of those awesome Strum and the Wild Turkeys t-shirts, and there are a couple of different ones that you can order that there also along with the book. Oh. Yeah, there you go. Noah's mom and dad have also, yeah.
I'm not so into merchandising. That's not really what happened. What happened was it was when you join the band, you wear the t-shirt. And so there was something about that feeling of community that came out of the story. And that's what we want people to do with the website too. Feel a part of something, especially now during COVID times, to be able to feel, even if you are physically isolated, to be able to use your imagination or to be able to use all of the different ways we've understood now that we can build community, even if we can't share physical space, that you can, wear that t-shirt and know that everybody that wears that t-shirt shares that vibe with you. So I think that's kind of cool too.
Yeah. And so that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about next, or wanted you both to talk about, which are the themes of the story. And so, you talk about being part of the band or the band getting the t-shirt. And if you wear the t-shirt, you're part of the group. And that's all about belonging. But there are so many other themes that can be taken from the book. So can you talk a little bit about that, Noah?
Of course. I mean, it's funny looking back at the book now that it's really everything I believe about education and why I love the classroom so much, because I hope that I create environments, expectations where kids go on this journey self-ward and they leave the time with me feeling like they've found their voices, feeling like they've been able to find their passions and be themselves. But, and I've said this a few times, the difference in this book, and this is really important, and I think in the TikTok generation, the difference between fitting in and belonging, as really clearly communicated in Brene Brown's work, is that fitting in is being like other people so that you can be alike, and belonging is about being yourself and surrounding yourself with people who let you be you, who even are excited for you to be you. And, some kids have asked me, but his family doesn't let him do that. And that's a really hard bridge to cross in a conversation. But I really try to communicate that we are not the circumstances that we are brought into, whether it's family or it's a school classroom or, it's people that you end up being with. You have the power to find people that are not necessarily like you. They don't look like you. They don't all have to have the same interests, but they do have to build you up. And I think that that's something that we can teach kids. Instead of having a book that says, this is the character education I want to give you. And I really appreciated that about Ramona Mahark's feedback, is none of the themes are like, here's the theme. It's really where kids leave there feeling like, yeah. And I had, a friend of the family who I gave as a gift the book, and I wrote my note to her, and she called me last night and she said, Noah, I've read it 3 times. This is my story. And that's another thing. I got a little bit emotional because when you can write for other people. And even though you're writing a story, and I was writing it for Evie and Barry, but I was writing it, to tell something. And when other people can connect to it, and, other people in other classrooms have said, every one of my students found a way into this, or every one of my students could relate to how he looked. And that's like a gift that you didn't even, I don't know. It's really cool.
Yeah.
For a minute.
That's okay. Take a deep breath. It's amazing, that you're so tied to it emotionally. When you were doing the illustrations, Alana, did you get that feeling in terms of each of the characters and then putting it all together with the story?
Yeah, I think it definitely built up over time, because reading the manuscript, I mean, I had a sense of the story, but then once Noa really started evolving it and delving into it more and sharing the emotional part with me, I was like, oh, I understand that feeling so much, because I remember struggling and having such a hard time in middle school, not feeling part of a group and always trying to hide inside for recess and bullying and stuff like that. And then finally coming around to high school, where like even music as a connector, like finding my people that we connected with, loving the same music, loving the same bands, going to concerts and stuff, and just finding your own tribe, like finding your found family. Like even with Strum, like his family rejected him, and that sucks. But you know what? You can find your own family and make your own tribe. And I think that's what this book is all about.
Right.
A lot of kids are upset about that. And it's funny because, Alana knows this, but I've written the second book. I don't know if I actually get to ever do it, but I'm hoping. And I think the fourth or fifth book is when he's going to go to India to be reunited with his parents, and his siblings are going to be there. And we see a reconciliation that happens in an epiphany that I have a whole idea. We'll see what happens. But if I don't get to share it with the world, I'm definitely sharing it with my students and my children, for whom I only ever thought I was going to write, because I haven't been writing like that for an audience. I mean, I've been blogging and writing chapters and things like that, but certainly not thinking that I was going to do this. And I feel grateful that I've been able to have this kind of experience. And our team is just, it's amazing. And so Alana talked about Stacy. Stacy was brought in because somebody did talk to us originally about making this into a show of some kind. And I was asked to write a Bible, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And Stacy, who is my sister's sister-in-law, just a really creative person. She worked in TV for a long time. She's an educational consultant for a lot of TV, and she does a lot of other things because she's also our social media and community coordinator. But as the educational consultant, she taught me what a Bible was and how to write a character arc and how to be able to show the longevity, show the legs of a story. And that might come into something, but it really helped me with the backstory for Alana, because I had told all the characters' stories. I mean, Kiki, they are fantastic. And when Alana and I were talking about them and the kind of flair that they have and what they would wear and how they would act, I mean, Alana fell in love with Kiki as she was drawing them. So it's really, I mean, you can talk about Kiki because I know that they're your favorite. Yeah. So you can see, so there, I guess, to the viewers, right, there's Strum, and there to the left is Cut, and he's the leader of the band. And his backstory is more simple and really driven by his love of music. But there you can see Kiki playing the guitar, and they just have like the joie de vivre about them. And I don't know, Alana, would you want to talk about that character?
Yeah, sure. Designing Kiki was definitely my favorite part. Like, they are so flamboyant and just so confident. And I kind of modeled them after Elton John, Ziggy Stardust kind of feel. Like I added tassels, and like they like costumes. They like being a real rock star, right? So I just wanted
flamboyant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have the point there.
Yeah. David, like I looked at all those kind of references.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I want to go back to what Noa was saying about other stories, other books. I hope that, and I really encourage you, although I know writing is a process, to continue the story, because I can see the characters developing, and this story is about Strum and how he finds his tribe, his group, finds his voice. Because it was nice that he always felt that he was embarrassed about his feathers, but he felt he had a way to use them that made him different. And then he didn't really care what others thought about him. But I think the storyline about the family and the fact that each of the band members has such a personality that could be developed. And I'd love for you to talk, not to give anything away about future, but to talk about the characters and sort of what they were each based on, and how they fit together.
But before I do the characters, because I want to do that, this was another part of the, like, alluding to there being other stories. So if you look at the map, which is of a real place, when we were getting to the map, because we really wanted the map to be there, we wanted to not only, yay, map sister,
yes,
we can all map it up. Anyway, Alana was, had this incredible illustration of this very real place, and I had to play with the names because I'm me and I like to name things. But also, when she chose the sepia, like the kind of sepia, it was so clear that having the contrast and showing the colors of where this story takes place really gives the reader a sense that something else is going to happen at other places. So that happens. So in my imaginary next story, where I've written that we actually get to learn more about each of the characters. They happen in different spaces on this map. But so I told you a little bit about Strum and a little bit about Gobble. I think the other character that is interesting. So yes, we looked at people who were serene when it came to Yelp, but also a Stevie Nicks. And it's interesting when you look at Alana's illustrations, she had different hair, and we were trying to play with the hair because we wanted it to flow. And when she finally came out, and you can't totally see Yelp the way she's designed, but if you look at Alana's Instagram, and I retweeted it and I shared it on Instagram, she just talked a little bit about Yelp's character evolution, because she's been showing that through her Instagram. And if you don't follow Alana on Instagram, it's an amazing thing to watch. I cheer her on for all of her work. I can't believe I get to work with somebody like her. You can kind of see here. Oh, I really don't want to give away so much. Like,
yes,
you see that's her. And what I wanted from Yelp, because she's beautiful and because she's a percussionist, I wanted her music to do a lot of the speaking, and a lot of her beauty comes from her inner beauty and her serenity. But she speaks once in a while, and kind of like, and because it's an adult audience, I can say this, but kind of like Silent Bob. So if you know any of the Jay and Silent Bob movies, you know that Silent Bob only speaks once in a while, and when he speaks, people need to listen. So I kind of gave her the Harpo Marx Silent Bob analogy to go with. And so when she was evolving it and we came up with the Stevie Nicks piece, you see the feather in the hair and you have that 1970s vibe. And I don't know, each of the characters are just so perfect. And even though the ideas came from me, she brought the whole book to life. And, that's why we both signed the books. And it was funny because people say, well, author signed the book. I said, but we created this book together, neither of ours separately. But somebody recently in a write-up called us a writing duo. And I thought, isn't this fun? Like, we're a team and we didn't even know.
Yes. That is really, really awesome. And the idea that it's a picture book, and the pictures really enhance the story. Just having the words on the page would have been awesome because it's a great story. But having those pictures, the illustrations, they're not just pictures, they're illustrations of each of the characters and the scenes, and the map has really just brought the whole story to life. Now, I've seen a couple of comments when you've posted things, Noah, that people have said it isn't really only just a children's book. And so even when I was putting out the information about our live today, I was really careful not to say this is a children's book, because yes, I think you started thinking maybe that's where it would be, because we think of picture books as children's books. But because of the way the illustrations are, and there's so many layers to the themes, wouldn't you say that older students and even adults would really enjoy this book?
So I actually have a book study. You can find it on the activities for kids, but anybody could engage in it. And I've been reading the book to a lot of grade 8 classes. So my NTIP mentee invited me to her class to read it last week. And I didn't know that 2 of the girls followed us on Instagram. And because Stacy runs our social media, sorry, you can't come here. I'm live right now. Thank you. Happens like that sometimes. Because Stacy runs our social media, all of a sudden she posted this comment from this girl to whom I just presented. And I was like, well, how did this happen? And it was like almost like this lovely surprise, because here's a grade 8 student that decided not only did I like the book, but I want to follow them on Insta, and I'm going to engage in a dialogue about it because it is for older kids too. And then Carol Salva was talking about it on Voice Ed Radio this morning, saying about, and this is the thing, children's books are sometimes lost on children, even though they're beautiful and even though they're great stories. And as a grade 8 teacher, I use children's books in my class all the time because they're nuanced. And so, yay, there are beautiful pictures and they can see the story. And because of Alana's artwork, they can really feel the story. But the layers of meaning and the application of the themes can really be done at all levels. And in order to, utilize this book, that was what happened too, because I'm a teacher. Like, that is who I am in my essence and in my soul. And so when we had a website, I'm like, guys, can I just do some things for teachers in the website? And they kind of said, sure, whatever you want to do. And I was so lucky to have my friend Brandon do this with me and make beautiful things, because I'm not technically savvy, but I am academically savvy and certainly educationally. So I started to create all of these different catalysts for teachers to be able to use the book, because exactly what you're saying, it's not a one-off. Like, it can be great story, cheers, no problem. And I've been getting beautiful notes from people who are cuddling up at night and reading it. But there's so much in this book. And even Alana, I sent her the copy of my teacher's guide. And I mean, you can tell them what you said to me, who knew?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Noa sent me all her copy that she was planning to put on the website for the educational part of the book. And I just said to her, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this book was capable of such depth. She had so many activities related to all the different subjects. It was just, incredible.
Yeah.
I like teaching. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah. And then thinking of all the different types of lessons that you could learn from it. And just like Alana said, a little earlier, about the fact that she read the manuscript and she, it brought back memories of things that she sort of had happened to her. And so, and she's an adult, so obviously there are things that we can all relate to. And I think definitely conversations that we can have about, this is real life. I mean, even to the reactions of the students who have said, but Strum is rejected by his family. That's real life. That happens. And I'm glad in the future there's reconciliation, because that's something that I relate to very much so. So yeah. Is there anything else that the two of you wanted to talk about that we hadn't really broached yet? Or
I want to say one thing. So I had to stop myself with the teacher's guide, because I also wanted this to be a community space. So I stopped myself and said, especially with music, which is not, even though I love it, it's not a genre, it's not a subject that I teach really. So I want people to say, I want to use it this way, and not make this a linear space that is me telling you, but invite people to write 2 ideas at Strum and the Wild Turkeys and let us know what school you're at, and we'll post your name and your idea, and let's start to build this space up together. because our stories matter, and belonging happens when people have an invitation to be who they are in different spaces. And I like to believe that we're going to grow community through this. And hopefully, whether you're a child alone in a space and you don't have access to people at all, and you and Strum can hang out with the Strum on the Run, whether you print it yourself or you ask us for one, because I just thought, wouldn't this be so cute? I would really like to go on little walks with Strum and have conversations. But if that doesn't work for you, hopefully there's something for everybody. And if there isn't, let us know and let's build it together, because I really do want this to be a catalyst for something more.
Yeah, and much of what you talk about also is this idea of acceptance for your true self, no matter whether you fit in to a group or not, that you're accepted for who you are. So I put up the website, and Alana, any last words, or at least let us know. I know Noah mentioned about your Instagram, so make sure, because it's different from your Twitter. So tell everybody, how they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really active on Instagram, and I've shared a lot of behind the scenes work that I've done on Strum and the Wild Turkeys, including processes from sketch all the way to linear to the final.
Nice.
And you can follow me at Alana McCarthy Art on Instagram and Facebook as well. And then I'm Alana MC on Twitter. I'm not as active on there. I just kind of push through my Instagram onto there, as Noah knows. But yeah, so Alana McCarthy Art.
Perfect. Yes. Any final words before we end?
I just want to thank you so much for giving us the time and space to be together. I think that this is an example of what can happen when people are given opportunity and self-direction and a little bit of freedom to grow and collaborate. So I'm just thankful to you. I love to work with you, Eileen, and I love to share space with you. And, the themes of belonging are part of your soul. So I knew that was going to be something that you gravitated to. But when you said there's love on every page, hopefully we helped to tease that out in a little bit more detail. Thank you for the time and for reading our book and for sharing it with everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Alana, any final words?
Yes, thank you so much for having us, Eileen. This has been a wonderful experience, and I just hope everybody goes out and buys a copy of the book for themselves, because I think it should be in every household, in every classroom.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And make sure you check out the website and all the resources, and also stay in contact with Alana and Noah about what you think about the book and ideas for the book and for doing things in class, and how it's resonated with you no matter what age you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Eileen.
Yeah. So thank you both. I really appreciate it. And thanks to those who are listening to us live. And if you're watching the recording, thank you to all of you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.